Hey guys, Danny Green here. If you're seeing me and I look like I did yesterday, forgive me. I've been bumming around the house, and so I haven't changed my clothes. A lot of times, most of the time, actually, if instead of wearing pajamas these days, if I wear anything to bed, I just wear what I already had on. So I'm going somewhere in a little bit, so I'm gonna have to change my clothes. But for today, I just been bumming around the house since yesterday. Haven't done anything, since I last posted my video. So that's why, yeah, I don't know if you can even notice, but if you do, if you're able to see that I have the same shirt on as yesterday, that's why. I don't like to do that too much with videos, but hey, it's every once in a while. It's okay. Okay, let me put my. Let's see. All right. So I wanted to actually get on here today because there's something that I wanted to clarify to you guys that I don't think was clarified. I don't think I did anything wrong with how I did it, but I just don't think I don't think I clarified something all that well. And so I just want to go ahead and just clarify that because anytime I miss out on an opportunity to make something clear, I don't edit videos. I don't know how to do those, how to do that. I have a couple of friends that know how to do it, and I have a lot of respect for them for that because they are. I just have a lot of respect for that because I think that it's a very tedious process. It's not even something I really want to learn to do, to be honest. I mean, there's probably parts of it would be kind of fun, but it's just really tedious as well. So if I don't have something that is fully covered, I'll sometimes take the opportunity to put uh, to say something on YouTube or add something to my next to a video maybe that I kind of meant to say, but maybe didn't clarify it. So I'm just gonna go a little bit off of what we said yesterday. This is gonna be very short. I could see this video being less than 10 minutes, but I think that it's important that what I wanted to get across is covered. So yesterday I had said about Philippians 4:13 that I think um, that verse gets misused, and I do. I do. The problem is that I think I said that I that in context of what that verse says, which is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, is that I said that it was specific to Paul being good and content in whatever situation he's in. And I agree with that, but I also think that there are times where the Lord can have us do things like have a conversation with somebody, or sometimes we might have to stand up for what's right against somebody. Maybe somebody's trying to cheat us out of something, and we view them as more powerful than we are, and so we might have reservations about standing up. And I think that those kinds of things also when we're standing up for something, especially if it's not something we're used to doing. Some people are assertive by nature, others aren't, and so I think that is also those are also gifts from the Lord, or strength. Maybe not gifts, but strength that comes from the Lord that allows us to do that. However, one thing that I had said was that, and I don't think I clarified this enough. That when I said that people misuse that verse, what I was talking about is people will say, and I get this a lot, and I don't know about you guys, if you guys ever get this, but if you're disabled or at some sort of disadvantage, you very well may. And I want to just encourage you to not worry about what other people say if they try to discourage you, or um, because what I'm about to say is that the same thing. The thing is, if you're disabled, if you're if there's anybody in here that or in this audience that's watching this video that's in a wheelchair, or maybe you're not in a wheelchair, maybe you're just physically disabled, but you can walk like me. You might be in a walker. You can have all sorts of disabilities that could prevent you from doing certain things. And in this case, I'm talking about getting a job because, as you guys heard me briefly touch on yesterday, I deal with a lot of, I'm dealing with a legal situation when it comes to a job that I had for a few days where and I think I may even said what had happened, but I won't go there right now because that's not really that relevant. But what I wanted to say is that I have been told before that I don't need to work because I get a check from the government, which I understand what they're saying when they say that because I do get I do get payment every month that I know is never going to go away. The only way it's going to go away is if I start making too much money and report it, and they could take me off of resources. So I understand where people are coming from. However, they're not listening to their own to what they're saying, because what they don't realize is, and again, I have this conversation with a buddy of mine quite often. I don't want to say constantly, but quite often, because he and I are both disabled. So in this sense, we're both in the same boat. We are grateful that our checks are there and that we get them every month. But that being said, we don't get paid hardly peanuts. We get paid for, I don't know about him because he has like I think he gets paid a little more than I do because of his dad's work history, or there's some insurance plan that he puts in for. So I think his his pay is slightly different than mine, and it's and he gets two checks throughout the month as well. So I don't remember exactly how that works, but that's okay. I get $994 a month, and without Section 8, and I actually don't get food stamps. I probably should, but I don't because I've never wanted to go through the process of getting them. I just thought it seemed like a headache. But and that's okay. I have no problem talking to people, obviously, about the situation I'm in. Some people say that's nobody's business, but you know what? If I want to share it, it's my own business, so I can share it with whoever I want to. But I should probably get food stamps because I have credit card debt, which I got myself into after my ex fiance and I broke up. It was, I spent a lot of time just going out and eating and doing certain things, and it just accumulated over time, and it was a coping mechanism for me. I don't recommend it, but that's the situation I'm in, and it could be worse because all my needs are met, as far as having a place to live and all that good stuff. And yeah, as long as I win this upcoming settlement, I'm going to be able to pay off my debt anyway, which I don't think there's any way I'm going to lose. It's just a matter of waiting for the whole process to be uncovered. But the reason that I'm over here talking about this today is because I have been told before that I shouldn't worry about working because I get a check in the mail, or in this case it's actually direct deposited, but I get a check every month, and people say to me, I've had pastors even say, if I were you, I would just be, I'd just be sitting in my apartment enjoying life, not worrying about working. Well, okay, it's easy for you to say that, but you're not in that situation. And if you were, and if you really understood that we don't get a whole lot to live off of. Yes, we get enough if we have help along the way, but it's not enough to live independently. We have to technically, in order to even get a one bedroom apartment. I don't even know how much I just for rent. If I were to get an if I were to get a one bedroom apartment, a lot of them go for about $1,700. So I barely make. I make a little bit over half of that. So again, I'm not saying that I'm not glad that the assistance that I do get is there, but at the end of the day, they have what's called the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment every year that we get. We usually, not all the time, but we usually get a an adjustment every year for because the cost of living goes up. But if the cost of living, if our Social Security checks really wanted to, or we're really going to keep up with inflation, we'd be making about probably we should be making about $1,600 or so. And and I understand why it's not that way. First of all, it would just if you gave, let's just say you gave someone who was disabled the amount of work of money that they would take home every month if they were working a regular job. Well, the problem with that is you'd have more people than already are. You'd have more people in addition to who's already doing it. You'd have more people abusing the system, and there's a lot of people that do that. I could sit here and talk about that for a long time, but I won't because that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here to say is that if people try to say you don't need to get a job because you have government assistance, that they'll use Philippians 4:13 out of context, like, oh, you shouldn't worry about working, you should just be content with what you've already got. Okay, well, just because I'm trying to make better, or like I don't want to say better, but just because I'm trying to make a living for myself doesn't mean I'm not content. I mean, because I'm happy with the way things are, in the sense of I'm happy that I get the help that I do get. That being said, if somebody wants to get off the system, and they're disabled and they don't want to rely on that kind of government assistance, then more power to them. Let them have a job. Because if you're telling people that they should just live off of what the government offers, then you know what else you're telling them, and this is what gets me angry. You're telling them that they shouldn't have hopes and dreams. Because guess what? In order to do things in life, in order to go on vacations, in order to buy things for ourselves, whether they're things that might help us, or things just everyday things, what does that require? Money. And if you don't have money, then you can't afford that stuff. So as people tell you, if you're somebody who's disadvantaged, that you shouldn't work, they're telling you that you don't have the right to hopes and dreams that they have. And that's not cool. And if I seem a little bit passionate about this one, it's because I am. I've dealt with it. And if people actually listened to what they were saying when they told people, when they used when they used the verse of Philippians 4:13 and being content in all your circumstances. Well, does being content mean that I don't have that I shouldn't try to get myself into a better situation? I mean, It almost seems like people who are disabled are put on trial if they have if they want to work. And you know what? I don't even like to have those conversations because they would never happen if I weren't disabled. And I'm speaking to each and every one of you. I don't know who's watching this. I don't know if you're in a disadvantage, but if other people try to keep you, through their words or their actions, if they try to keep you as at that disadvantage, then I'd say that that's another thing you can fight for. And you can even tell them, to their face or over the phone or however you get the chance to talk to them. If you were in my situation, I think you'd be singing a little bit different tune. And they may try to disregard you. And if they do, then you just pray for them. And you pray, because I don't want to ever get to the point where I'm wishing harm on other people. I never would do that. But sometimes, especially those who will say that, disabled people, oh, there's a difference between me wanting to work and the disabled people who already get checks having to work. There's a certain amount of truth to that, but at the end of the day, we don't get enough. We as disabled individuals don't get enough to really achieve and experience hopes and dreams. And again, I don't want to sit here and sound ungrateful, but if we just stay where we're at, then we're not going to have the opportunity to experience hopes and dreams, in spite of our hardships, which we should do. And I've heard it said before that if I sat in my house and just didn't worry about working and just was always content with what I already had, that's a testimony. Well, let me ask a question. How is that a testimony? Because I mean that would be a testimony is something that's required to happen or where something miraculous has happened. If I'm sitting on my butt because of what's already given to me, that's not a testimony. There's no story behind that. You could say, "Oh, well, this guy's happy with what he gets," and that's fine. But there's no real testimony behind it because there's nothing that I have to accomplish. Anyone can just sit on their butt and take money that's handed to them. And again, resources are nothing to be ashamed of. What I'm saying is that people misuse Philippians 4:13 to kind of justify the position that if people are in a situation where they're just making ends meet, that's where they should be the rest of their lives. And I don't agree with that, especially when they're not doing it themselves. I understand that some people say, "Oh, well, I have a family to support." Well, that's not that's that. Well, why should somebody who is disabled be penalized because you have a family and they don't? The families are a wonderful thing, but guess what? You made the choice to have that family as well. Nobody says you have to have four kids or however many kids you have, four or five, even two or three. Nobody says that. Now, again, I'm not saying people shouldn't start families. What I'm saying is anybody should be able to do what they want to pursue and able to pursue what they want in order, they should be able to do that without being without being put on trial for it. So I just wanted to encourage you guys that even if you're in a situation where you don't have where you're making ends meet, you can be happy in that. You can be content for the moment, but don't let that stop you. If you have a hope and dream to be something, for a career, or there's something you're trying to accomplish, don't be afraid to do it, and don't listen to anybody who says you can't. because they probably most likely would be singing a different tune if they were put in that situation. So I don't ever, like I said, I don't want to wish harm on people, but sometimes I do wish that they would be put in that situation that where where it would be similar to the situation that the person to the person they're talking to, because I'd like to see if they'd still be singing the same tune, and I highly doubt it. So I hope that encourages you guys. Again, it sort of just goes along with having contentment, but not necessarily staying where you are. Jesus, of course, it's a little bit different in our situation, because our when you're talking about the spiritual aspect, it's about getting rid of the sin in your life. But Jesus never wants to keep us the same. He loves us the way we are. He takes us for what we are, but he loves us too much to keep us the same. So we can be happy and grateful for our current situation. Like, I'm grateful that I have an apartment that I can go to and home to every day, and that I can sleep comfortably in a bed every night. But does that mean that I have to stay in a situation where I don't pursue maybe buying a house? And I'm not saying I'm going to buy a house. I probably won't. But there's nothing wrong with having the money to do so, because I could use that money for other things, like I don't know, I don't like going to baseball stadiums um, around the country. That would be something I'd want to do, and that takes money. Either that takes money, or maybe if you win a trip, you win the trip. But if you have the money to do things, the more money you have, the more opportunity you have, and that may not seem right, but that's the fact. Those are the facts. If we want to afford things, if we want to do certain things with our lives, the fact of the matter is we often have to have the finances to do it. Sometimes we will, people might be generous and maybe invite someone to go on vacation with them if they don't ever get that opportunity. But you know what? That's not going to happen too often. And so I find it to be a little bit hypocritical that people who, are doing just fine financially will say to others, "Oh, you don't, you're disabled. You don't have to work. You get a check from the government." Are those people actually listening to what they're saying? And I would say that the answer is no. So again, I hope that encourages you. It just gives you it kind of goes back to just continuing to fight the good fight. If you have dreams and hopes that you want to accomplish, you very well might have to fight for them. And I just want to encourage you to do that. I don't want you to think that just because you're content that you have to stay in a certain situation all the time. You can possibly make for yourself a better one, and or a different one, maybe not better but different. What some people may say is better might be relative, but at the end of the day, don't let anyone's doubts get in the way of your dreams. You know what? Because they aren't theirs to do that with. Those are your dreams, and you have the right to have any of them that you want. And if you really want them, you might have to go after them. But it's nobody's place to take that away from you under any circumstances. So I hope that encourages you today, my brothers and sisters. I want to say a prayer before I log off, and then I will see you guys. Well, I'll make a video tomorrow. I probably won't see you tomorrow. It will be probably Saturday that you see me, because that's when my next video will be published. All right. Dear Lord, we thank you. I thank you for this day, and I thank you for your great love and your care for us, Lord. And I just want to pray for to be in to uh, I just want to pray for the understanding, really, of the context of Philippians 4:13, because it's really been on my mind the last day or so that I didn't really cover that all that well. And Lord, I want to be godly, and I want to show others. I want to set an example of how to be godly too. And I don't want to throw shade on other people, throw dirt on them. But at the end of the day, they do have some people have a very flawed view of how things really are. And I don't think there's anything wrong with exposing that if it's needed. So, Lord, I just pray that for us that are maybe in a situation where we'd like to be doing better, or where we'd like to be, maybe not better might not be the word, but we might be want to be in a we want might not be necessarily in the same situation that we want to be in life. And I pray that we just don't lose heart, and that we still are able to pursue that, whether it be a financial thing, or just just anything that we'd like to improve about our lives. It could be our spiritual life, as far as our relationship with you. I want to be careful when I say spiritual, because that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're at the forefront, Lord, and you need to be. But I just pray for people to, not be afraid to change a situation, or go after opportunity to change a situation that they're in. And if they don't want to, or can't, that's another thing. But they won't know if they can, if they have all these people that are throwing obstacles up at them. And a lot of people who are disabled or disadvantaged can do a lot of things that they never get the opportunity to do. And Lord, I just that's been on my mind a lot lately. And so I'm sure I'll cover this again in another teaching um, in the future, but it may not be for another while. but but Lord, I just ask that you would just grant us the gift, I guess, of contentment. But again, don't lose heart in trying to change something about our situation. And don't Lord, I just ask that those who might put up barriers, that you would just silence them, and just give people the strength that want to go after and pursue dreams or hopes, or some kind of career for that might be more financially rewarding. I'm not saying we're in it for the money, but the fact of the matter is, we're people who are disabled are often not treated as equals. And I don't think that's cool. So, Lord, I just pray that you would just give us the strength to fight our battles, and do it in a godly way, but do it nonetheless, because that's where there's a real testimony. And Lord, I just pray for these things, and I pray for my brothers and sisters who are going to watch this video. Yeah, and I pray these things, and that I pray that this message was delivered clearly, and that again, that people would just not worry about critics that might be in their lives, naysayers. I've dealt with it uh, a lot in my life, and I just get tired of it. But one thing I do like to do is be sort of like an advocate for those who are in disadvantaged situations. And I think you've given me the strength to that comes along with wanting to do that. So I thank you for that as well. I pray these things in Jesus' awesome and holy and precious name. Amen. I love you and appreciate you guys, and I will see you in a couple of days. God bless.